The Forgotten Amusement Park. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the abandoned amusement park. It had been years since the last laughter echoed through its rusting rides and decaying booths. A storm was brewing on the edge of town, its dark clouds rolling in like an omen of doom. For those who remembered the park's glory days, it was a place of joy and wonder. But for those who came after, it was a relic of forgotten dreams, a maze of rust, rot, and eerie silence. Lena Mitchell had always been drawn to the mysterious. As a journalist for a local magazine, she had covered numerous oddities and urban legends. But none intrigued her quite like the abandoned amusement park on the outskirts of town. It had been closed for decades, and the stories she'd heard about it ranged from the eerie to the macabre. Tonight, driven by a mix of curiosity and ambition, Lena decided to uncover the truth behind the park's downfall and the rumors of hauntings. She arrived at the park's entrance as the sun was setting, its last rays casting a golden glow over the dilapidated gate. The entrance was flanked by towering, grotesque statues of clowns, their once bright paint now chipped and faded. The wrought iron gate creaked as she pushed it open, and the sound of metal scraping against metal sent a shiver down her spine. Lena stepped inside, her flashlight piercing the encroaching darkness. The park was a sprawling wasteland of broken dreams. The Ferris wheel loomed in the distance, a skeletal giant against the darkening sky. The carousel's once gaily painted horses were now weathered and cracked. The smell of mildew and decay was thick in the air, mingling with the scent of damp earth. As Lena made her way deeper into the park, she noted the overgrown weeds and tangled vines that had claimed the once colorful pathways. The park was silent, save for the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant rumble of thunder. The atmosphere was heavy, almost oppressive, as if the park itself were holding its breath. She decided to start her investigation at the old funhouse, a twisted labyrinth of mirrors and disorienting passages. The building loomed ahead, its windows shattered and its structure sagging under years of neglect. Lena approached cautiously, her footsteps echoing unnervingly in the stillness. Inside the funhouse was a maze of broken glass and warped reflections. The mirrors that lined the walls were cracked and stained, casting distorted images of Lena's flashlight beam. She felt a twinge of unease as she wandered through the corridors, each step making the old floorboards creak ominously beneath her feet. In one corner of the funhouse, Lena found a small room filled with remnants of carnival games. Dust-covered prizes and broken toys lay scattered about, the once cheerful colors now dulled by time. She was about to leave when something caught her eye, a shadowy figure darting past one of the broken mirrors. Heart racing, Lena turned around, but the room was empty. She dismissed it as a trick of the light and continued her exploration, though the feeling of being watched lingered. As the night deepened, the storm broke, unleashing a torrential downpour. Lena sought refuge in an old arcade, its neon signs long since extinguished. Inside, the machines were in various states of disrepair. The soft, pulsing glow of her flashlight illuminated the room in an eerie half-light. It was then that Lena heard it, a faint, haunting melody playing from somewhere within the arcade. It was a tune she recognized, a warped version of the carousel's music. Lena followed the sound, her curiosity piqued despite the growing sense of dread. She reached a partially collapsed room at the back of the arcade. The melody was louder here, coming from an old, broken music box. Lena approached it cautiously, the music box's delicate tune, a stark contrast to the grim surroundings. As she reached out to examine it, the music suddenly stopped, replaced by a low, menacing whisper. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She turned to leave, but the door to the arcade slammed shut behind her, trapping her inside. Panic set in as she pounded on the door, her calls for help swallowed by the storm outside. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, and Lena could feel a cold presence closing in around her. The temperature in the room dropped sharply, her breath becoming visible in the frigid air. Suddenly, the whispering ceased, and the room was plunged into darkness. Lena fumbled for her flashlight, her hands trembling. When she finally managed to turn it on, she was met with a horrifying sight. The arcade machines, which had been in disrepair moments ago, were now fully operational. Their screens flickered with distorted images, and the sound of static filled the room. Lena's reflection appeared on each screen, but the reflections were not quite right. They moved independently of her, mimicking her actions but with unsettling, exaggerated movements. A chilling laugh echoed through the arcade, not from any of the machines but from the very walls themselves. Lena turned to see ghostly figures emerging from the shadows. Pale, gaunt faces with hollow eyes staring back at her. Desperate, Lena ran through the arcade, searching for any possible escape. The laughter grew louder, more frenzied, as the figures followed her every move. She stumbled into a back room, finding it filled with old, dusty photographs of the park's former glory. In one photo, she saw a group of smiling children riding the carousel, their faces unnaturally bright. In the corner of the room, Lena noticed a large, ornate door, its surface covered in strange symbols and carvings. Driven by instinct, she approached the door and tried to open it. To her surprise, it creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. With no other options, Lena descended the stairs, the cold air growing more intense as she went deeper. The staircase seemed to go on forever, winding down into the depths of the earth. Finally, she reached a subterranean chamber, its walls lined with old, rotting carnival decorations. In the center of the room stood a large, ornate mirror. Lena approached it hesitantly, feeling a pull toward its reflective surface. As she neared, the mirror's surface rippled like water, and she saw something that made her blood run cold. The reflection in the mirror was not her own. Instead, it showed the park as it was in its prime, bright, lively, and filled with people. But the joy in the reflection was twisted, the people's faces contorted into grotesque masks of fear and anguish. The reflection seemed to reach out toward her, and Lena felt an icy hand grip her shoulder. Spinning around, Lena found herself face to face with a ghostly figure, a woman dressed in a tattered carnival costume. The figure's eyes were hollow, and her mouth stretched into a mournful grin. The woman reached out toward Lena, her voice a chilling whisper. "Why have you come here?" the ghost asked, her voice echoing with a sorrowful wail. "I'm just trying to understand," Lena replied, her voice trembling. The ghost's gaze seemed to pierce through Lena's soul. "This place is cursed," she said. "We were trapped here, doomed to relive the horrors of the park for eternity. You should leave before you become part of our torment." Lena's heart raced as she backed away from the ghost. The mirror's surface began to writhe and crack, the reflections twisting into nightmarish shapes. She turned and fled, the ghostly figure's mournful cries following her as she raced up the stairs. When she finally emerged from the depths of the park, the storm had passed, leaving the sky clear and the moon shining down on the desolate grounds. Lena stumbled out of the park, her body trembling and her mind reeling from the horrors she had witnessed. She looked back at the park one last time, its once familiar landmarks now shrouded in an otherworldly gloom. The amusement park, with its twisted echoes of joy and sorrow, stood as a grim reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of even the most innocent places. Lena never spoke of what she had seen that night. The park remained a haunting mystery, its secrets buried deep within its crumbling walls. The abandoned amusement park continued to stand as a silent witness to the horrors that unfolded within its gates, a chilling reminder of the price of uncovering too much of the darkness that lies hidden in the shadows. The story of Lena's visit became one of the park's many legends, a cautionary tale for those who might be tempted to explore the forgotten corners of the world. And so, the park remained, a place where the past's nightmares lived on, waiting for the next curious soul to uncover the terrifying truth that lay hidden within its depths.